to the start of a new reading vlog. This reading vlog is going to be finishing up my autumn/spooky reads before I dive into Christmas romances. So it is the 4th of November today, and I really want to kind of fit in a few more autumnal spooky reads before the end of the month, really, because end of November is kind of when I start reading a lot of Christmas books. I will be honest, I have actually already started one because I have one that's due back from the library, so I'm kind of reading that one a little bit ahead of when I would normally, but I have a few autumnal spooky reads that I have still got on my TBR. I've got loads, to be honest, but there's a few that I've got out from the library that I plan to read during this next week before I obviously start on my Christmas read. So I have one to update you on, and that is The Library of Second Chances by Molly Reed. I have already finished this one. It is a really short read. It's less than 300 pages, so it didn't take me long to get this one done, and I read this one and I gave it 3 stars. This one is a fine read. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it is just an okay read. So this one, we are following Chloe, and Chloe's parents have passed away. They passed away in a car accident, and she has moved back to her small hometown to kind of save up some money and sort out the house that she has inherited from her parents. Her sister is off doing her own thing. She kind of left the small town as soon as she could and is kind of traveling around the world, or she is at the beginning of the book. And Chloe works in the local library, but all is not as it seems with the local library. The local library is a unique place. It has magic within the library, and she finds out that she kind of has this ability to bring characters out of the books, and a few people in the library have this ability, but when they kind of open a book, the character kind of comes out into the library, and there's kind of some little mischief that occurs from that. And there is a little bit of a romance going on in this book as well. One of the people that comes into the library becomes attached to Chloe, and they end up having a relationship. There is also a cat in this book called Clementine, and he kind of gets his own perspective as well. It's throughout the book we get to see little snippets from him as well, which was quite sweet. Overall, as I say, this is a cute autumnal cozy read. This definitely kind of fits the bill for a few things in terms of if you are looking for a cozy light fantasy romance, this would definitely fit. There's no real high stakes in here. There is kind of a little bit of drama that occurs with her sister, and obviously, as I say, when the characters kind of come out the books, but overall it's pretty low stakes. How I think this book could have been improved, I do think that the kind of magical world that we were introduced to, the why this was happening was never really explained, and it was kind of a little bit interesting as well because people just seemed to readily accept that this was the case. When it kind of got revealed to characters in the book that the library was magic, they were just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that sort of makes sense. So which seems like very unrealistic. I feel like there would have been probably some more questions if obviously this was real life. But yeah, overall, there's not really much more to say about it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more with the romance. Obviously, as a romance reader, I do think that there could have been more development with the romance, but because it is such a short read, it's obviously difficult to develop everything in such a short space of time. Overall, this was a fine read. I would definitely recommend if you are looking for a cozy read, but it's not necessarily a favourite. I actually don't have a book that I'm reading next. I think I'm going to start Mate by Ali Hazelwood because I have that on my TBR to read, and I'm quite keen to get into that to kind of see what I make of it. As I say, in my works book haul, when I hauled my copy of it, I have actually not heard anyone talk about this yet, which is strange because Ali Hazelwood is obviously a very popular author, so I'm surprised I've not seen more people talking about it, but I am hoping that I will enjoy it. I did like Bride, and I gave Ali Hazelwood a 5-star earlier this year with Problematic Summer Romance is the title. I gave that one 5 stars. It was my first 5-star from Ali Hazelwood, so I'm hoping that Mate will be a good read, but I will update you once I have started my way through that one. So I have started reading Mate by Ali Hazelwood, and I am pretty far into it. I only have about 100 pages or so left, and I am actually really enjoying this one. So I did read Bride when it came out, and I liked that one at the time and gave it 4 stars. I'll be honest, I don't remember a ton about Bride, but I do remember that it was a vampire and werewolf romance. This one is her best friend that is introduced in that book, Serena, and Serena is a half werewolf, half human, and we do discover that in the first book in Bride. And Serena, as I say, is half human, half werewolf, and she has gone public with her identity, and so she needs to be protected. And so the werewolves take her in, and the alpha of the pack is called Cohen, I think is how you say it, and he is or she is his mate, and she doesn't necessarily believe that he is her mate, because I assume it's because she is half human, that she doesn't really identify with that kind of mate bond the same way that he does, because he's full werewolf. And I am really enjoying this one. Because of various rules within the pack, Cohen is not able to have a sexual relationship, and so that definitely causes some tension between the two of them. And I'm really enjoying seeing their relationship develop. It is obviously a more slow burn because the kind of because he isn't able to have a relationship. It is more of a slow burn because obviously they can't have that relationship. I assume they probably will by the end of the book, but obviously it is a slower burn book in comparison to some of Ali Hazelwood's other books. I am having a good time with this. Definitely a good one for spooky season if you like werewolf romances. I'll be honest, when it comes to paranormal romances, I do prefer vampire romances to werewolf romances. Like, if I had to pick, vampires are definitely my favourite compared to werewolves, but I am enjoying this one. I do still enjoy werewolf romances, just vampires I enjoy more, and yeah, I am having a good time with this. I'm not sure where it's going to land on the rating scale at the moment. It's definitely in between like a 4 and a 5 star, and I think depending on how this ends will solidify my rating, but I am having a good time with this and I would definitely recommend it. I would suggest reading Bride before this one, and I almost wish that I had reread Bride. Now that I'm getting further into Mate, and certain kind of characters and things are referenced, I am kind of slowly remembering what happened in Bride, but I do think I would have benefited from a reread. So I may go back and reread Bride at some point as well, but I will update you once I have finished this one, which will probably be tomorrow at this point. But yeah, so far having a really good time with this one. So I have finished Mate by Ali Hazelwood, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. This one wasn't quite a 5-star read to me, but I did enjoy it more than Bride, so I wanted to reflect that in my rating, so that's why I ended up on a 4.5. I did have a good time reading this, but I do think that the ending personally for me could have been better. So I really liked the build-up of this one. As I said in my previous clip, I did feel that this was more of a slow burn romance, because it did take the characters a while to kind of build up their relationship, which I did really appreciate seeing. This one is difficult because this one is nearly 450 pages short. I think it's just like a few pages short of that mark. And at times it did feel a little bit too long, but on the other hand, there were parts of this that felt really rushed. So I do feel that maybe some of this could have been edited down, maybe to make it shorter, and kind of maybe some of the build up at the beginning maybe could have been taken out. I don't know, but there were things that happened at the end that were wrapped up very quickly and very conveniently, I feel. So in my previous clip I did mention about Cohen's celibacy pact that he's kind of made to be the alpha, he has to be celibate, and I was unsure how that was kind of going to get resolved, because obviously they were going to have a relationship. It's a romance, we know they're going to have a relationship, and they do obviously end up having a physical relationship, and the way that that kind of got resolved seemed very quick, very convenient, and I was maybe expecting a bit more kind of, I don't know, kind of a bit more drama around it, I guess. And the other thing, that there was information revealed about Serena's parents and who they were and how they are kind of like involved with the story. And again, that felt a little bit rushed as well. We kind of get that revealed and then it's kind of all wrapped up quite quickly in a very short space of time. So as I say, some minor things I feel could have been improved on, but overall I did have a really good time reading this. I did really like the slow burn nature of Serena and Cohen's relationship as it kind of built up throughout the book. I really liked the way that Serena kind of she's very unserious and Cohen is very serious, and I liked that dynamic. I thought it worked really well. I am glad that I have read this. I think you definitely need to have read Bride before reading this. I think you would definitely benefit from that, and I did like this one more than Bride. As I say, Bride I gave 4 stars to. It was a good read, but I do feel this was slightly better, even though it did have the kind of slight problems that I mentioned. I do think that I enjoy, I mean, I say that because I have read one Ali Hazelwood contemporary that I have given 5 stars to, so I feel like her writing is definitely improving and I am liking it more than I did some of her earlier stuff. So I do think that I will continue to read her books going forward. I don't think that she's got any more planned in this world currently. I would love if she wrote more paranormal stuff. I think that she works really well in that genre, and I do like the kind of werewolf and vampire stories. As I say, I think I mentioned in my previous clip that I do prefer vampire stories to werewolf stories, so I would love to see more vampire stuff from her because that is one of my favourite things to read. But definitely would recommend this if you are looking for a werewolf romance. I think this is a good one, and I do think that it is worth the hype. I haven't heard too many people talking about it, but when I've seen some of the people that I follow on Goodreads, a lot of them are giving it 4 or 5 stars in terms of their rating. I think at this point the people that are picking up this book are fans of Ali Hazelwood, so they've read all of her previous books and are wanting to support her and continue on reading her work. So I think obviously you are going to see people rate it a bit more highly because they are already fans of her works. But yeah, I did have a good time with this one. I'm glad that I have read it. As I say, it did kind of drag a little bit towards the end, I feel, in terms of I was wanting to see more of the relationship and less of the kind of political stuff that we kind of started seeing within the pack. But overall, a really good read. Glad that I've read it and would recommend it. It is a good read for spooky season. I have a bunch of reading updates for you guys, and I have finished one book and I've made progress on 2 new books, so I wanted to update you. So the book that I finished reading is Kooky Spooky Love by Josie Silver. This is book 2 in the Melody Bittersweet series, and I kind of read this almost in one go, but it's really short. It's less than 300 pages, so I didn't do kind of a midpoint update on this one. I personally didn't feel like there needed to be a second book in this series. I was quite content with the first book. I gave the first book 4 stars and I was happy with it as a complete story. This one I didn't like as much and gave 3 stars. As I say, I didn't feel that this series, I didn't feel like this needed to be a series, but basically the premise for this one is that Melody Bittersweet can see ghosts. Her whole family, her mother and grandma, can also see ghosts, and they kind of have these businesses that they use to kind of commune with ghosts, and Melody decides to branch out on her own and does this business where she kind of helps ghosts move on. So that's kind of the basic premise of the story. In the first book, we are following one kind of storyline with the ghost, and this one follows a new storyline. And we are in this castle where these years ago there was this circus, and these performers ended up dying, and they kind of reliving the events of their death. So the female ghost, I think her name was Britannia or something like Britannia. She was a trapeze artist, and she ended up falling to her death. And it's whether her death was accidental or not. And Melody obviously is there to try and help the ghosts move on and kind of clear them out the castle. And we obviously have that plot going on, and then we also obviously have a bit of a side plot in terms of, it's not, this series I would not call a romance series, but there is kind of a romantic relationship running through where Melody has this kind of on again, off again sort of relationship with Fletcher Gunn, who is a reporter, and he doesn't believe in the supernatural. He doesn't believe what Melody does, and there is a lot of conflict between them because he obviously is very skeptical about the whole ghost business. So as I say, I felt like the sequel wasn't necessary. I was happy with the story, how it rounded up. I do think that you will benefit from reading the first book, although you could potentially read this as a standalone, but you won't get any of the background kind of with the side characters, although things that happened in the first book are mentioned in here and is explained quite well. So you could potentially pick this up as a standalone, but I think you would get the most out of it if you do read the first book. I feel like the humour that I enjoyed in the first book was lacking in this one. I didn't think that this book was as funny as the first one, and the humour didn't quite hit the mark for me. I also wasn't particularly interested in the story going on with the ghost. In the first book we saw it was kind of like a murder mystery, because there were three brothers and one of them had been murdered, and it was like working out who had done it. And I don't know, that the kind of, there was quite a mystery element sort of in here, but it wasn't quite as engaging. So that's why I gave this one 3 stars. It is still a fun read and is obviously perfect for spooky season. If you like the Mediator series as a teenager, I know when I was younger I really loved that series. This definitely has that kind of vibe because obviously she can talk to ghosts. So a solid read, but not necessarily one that I would recommend. I'd recommend the first one more. Then I have started A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This one I am really enjoying so far. I am not too far into it, but this is a cozy fantasy, and this one we are following Sarah, who is a witch, and when she was 15 years old she resurrected her great aunt, and that is a big no-no, and she basically loses her magical powers and is kind of exiled because she's completed this spell that is against all the witches' rules. And now she is running this magical inn with her great aunt, and this inn, as I say, is magical. There is a talking fox that is in this book, and obviously it's still very early days and Sarah is trying to kind of get back her magic. But yeah, so far I am enjoying this one. I read the first book in this, well, it's not a series, but the first book by this author, which is called The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and I thought that one was just okay. I gave that one 3 stars, but I am enjoying this one slightly more so far. Obviously it is still early days, so can't say for 100%, but I am having a good time with this one, and I will update you once I've read more. I probably might get this done tomorrow because it's very quick. And then the other book that I've started reading is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This one I am listening to on audio, and this one again is another cozy fantasy, and this one we are following Keela, who is a librarian, and at the beginning of her book her library is on fire, and so she has to escape, and she has this plant, this sentient spider plant called Kaz, who is her assistant in the library, and her and his plant escape, and she goes back to her small hometown, and we kind of see her settling into the small town, and she decides that she is going to open up a shop selling jam and like magic spells, but she's going to call them remedies because magic is forbidden. And so far I'm enjoying this one. It is obviously a cozy read, so I am having a fun time with it. I'm interested to see where this one goes. I know this one is very popular, and I hope that I do continue to enjoy it. I'm, as I say, really early days into this one, probably maybe like 20, maybe 30% in, but not too far. But so far having a good time, and hopefully I do enjoy this one so I can pick up the sequel, which is called The Enchanted Greenhouse, which came out fairly recently. I definitely am intrigued to check that one out. But I will update you more once I've read, hopefully finished one of these books. I think I'm most likely to get this one finished next, but I will update you as soon as I have more thoughts. I have finished A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana, and I really enjoyed this one. I had a really good time with this, and I gave it 4 stars. If you read the author's first book, which was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, her titles are such a tongue twister to say, but if you read that one and wasn't 100% sold on it, I would definitely recommend revisiting her books and picking up this one. This one does feel very different to that book, and I am really glad that I picked this one up. I gave the first book, the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, I gave that one 3 stars. Like, it was okay, but I didn't necessarily love it, even though a lot of people had hyped it up. This one I think is definitely worth the hype, and I am glad that I dove into it. Although they are both witchy books, they are definitely completely separate. They aren't like in the same series. They do read as standalones. You don't have to have read one to read the other. And this one, for me, I feel like I definitely had my expectations set correctly. For when I read the first one, I was expecting more of a romance. And whilst there is in both books a romantic subplot, that is not the main point of the story. I would market this book as a cozy fantasy with a romantic subplot. And I think the UK covers do a better job at marketing that, because this definitely screams like a cozy fantasy book to me, but the US cover, which I will put on screen, looks more of a romance book to me, and I think that if you have the wrong expectations for the book, you could be disappointed. But if you go in knowing that it's a cozy fantasy with a romantic subplot, I think you will enjoy it. I really liked the way that this one was set up. As I said in the previous clip, we have Sarah who's lost her magic, and she is trying to get her magic back. And the story centers around this inn that she has created using her magic. And there's obviously a lot of things that go on in the inn that obviously would not be normal outside of the realms of magic, which I really enjoyed seeing. This book also has a really fantastic cast of side characters, in my opinion. We have people staying within the inn, Matilda and Nicholas. They are 2 people staying in the inn that are regulars and are there almost full time. And we have Sarah's aunt, and we are also introduced, I can't remember if I mentioned it in the last clip or not, I don't know if I'd read as far, but we are introduced to Luke and his sister Posy. And Luke works at the Magical Guild, which is the kind of governing body for witches in this world. And he is sent by one of the professors from the guild to kind of help Sarah try and get back her magic, although he isn't aware of that when he first arrives at the inn. And his sister Posy is, she's his younger sister, and she has autism, and because of her autism, the teachers at the school find her difficult to manage because she doesn't behave the way that the other children do, and so they don't know really how to handle her. And when she ends up at this inn, she definitely finds her place at the inn, and that was really great to see. As I say, I love the journey that Sarah goes on. We obviously see her trying to get her magic back. I won't obviously spoil what happens at the end, but I do like the way this one ended as well. I think it definitely wrapped up well. We do see a romance blossom between Sarah and Luke, but as I say, it's not the main focus of the story. It is very much a side plot, but it is nice to see a romance. If you are a romance reader, I think you will enjoy it. As I say, I'm really glad that I did pick this one up. It's definitely just like a light, fun read, and I'm so glad that I did give this author another chance, and I'm definitely interested to see what she brings out next. I have finished The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It was really good and I would definitely recommend it, and I'm going to definitely be picking up the sequel, which is called The Enchanted Greenhouse. I think in the previous clip I kind of gave a brief introduction, but we are following Keela, who works as a librarian, and at the beginning of the book there is a fire in the library where she works and she has to escape, and there is a sentient plant called Kaz who is like her assistant and friend, and she obviously takes the plant with her as well, and she escapes back to her home. I say hometown, but it's an island, and she escapes there, and in this world magic is outlawed, and she has this spell book that she starts doing some spells, like harmless spells to help plants grow and things like that, and she decides that she wants to set up a spell shop, and in the spell shop she is going to be selling like little potions to kind of help with plants grow, and to kind of hide that, she decides that she's going to sell jam as well, and there is kind of a plot that comes up where people come to the island looking for a particular person, and they are obviously trying to hunt down the people that have magic, because as I say, magic's not allowed in this world, and that's kind of resolved quite quickly. But overall, I just had a good time reading this. I think it was such a fun, cozy read. I never really thought that I was a fan of cozy fantasy. I'll be honest, I haven't read a ton, but I have read a few recently that I have really enjoyed. I've read this one, I've read obviously the Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which I mentioned previously. I would classify that as cozy fantasy, and I really enjoyed that one. And Julie Long's book, The Teller of Small Fortunes, again, I would classify that as a cozy fantasy, and I had a good time with that as well. So if you have any recommendations for books that are similar to that, obviously I know I've got the sequel of this one to read, and I know Julie Long has got a new book out as well, but if you have any other recommendations that are similar to those, then please do let me know, because I'd definitely be interested to pick up more cozy fantasy books, because I just had such a good time with them. It's such a kind of breath of fresh air, because they're quite low stakes. You know that everything's obviously going to get resolved in the end, and I just really enjoy that. There's nothing better than kind of sitting, curling up, especially with the weather as it is at the moment. We've currently got a storm here in the UK and the weather is terrible. So there's nothing better than getting back from work, cozying up in my like comfy clothes and reading a cozy book like this. So definitely would recommend this. I'm really glad that I did pick this one up, and I think it is definitely worth the hype. But that is the end of this reading vlog. I think I've read 5 books in total for this vlog, 4 or 5 books, and I had a really good time with all of them. I don't think I really gave any less than 3 stars, which is pretty good going. So really happy with the books that I've recommended, that I've read, and if you have any recommendations for me, please do let me know, and I will see you guys in my next video.